Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Ramen Shop Detective Agency. Please have a seat, hang up your coats, order whatever you like. We are beginning today the first in a long run of series files for the most popular and beloved story arc of the Yu Yu Hakusho series, the Dark Tournament. Now, before we get into all the nitty gritty and the violence and the action we love and enjoy, we have to talk about the short road to the Dark Tournament that our crew took. So, if you want to be up to date before listening to this, I suggest you watch the anime episodes of 26 and 27 and or read manga chapters 51 to 53. I will also be going over the two-shot OVA / bonus chapter in the manga, so if you want to be up to date on that as well before listening, please go watch the OVA. You can watch it anywhere. I believe they even have it uploaded onto Crunchyroll now, so you can check that out subbed or dubbed. And if you want to read it, it is the bonus chapter at the end of manga volume 7. So please check those out before listening to this video. These videos are not to replace the original source material. They are to complement and supplement it. So without further ado, let's go over these short summaries about each of these episodes. Then we'll get into the chapter comparisons. Then we'll get into overall thoughts, and let's see if I can streamline it better this time. So let's get started with Two Shot. Two Shot takes place about a year before Yusuke encounters Hiei and Kurama during the Three Monsters portion of the main series. It starts off, we see some three kids, young gentlemen, and what seems to be some kind of abandoned factory with mannequin pieces everywhere. It looks like they want to lure some girls in for some fun, and they're testing out the scares when they are attacked by something in the night. The next day at Kurama's school, the students are all talking about disappearances that have been going on, and when the girl that likes Kurama the most asks, hey Kurama, what do you think about it? Kurama tries to, of course, play it off, act cool, act like he knows nothing of the supernatural, but something is certainly brewing, and he is trying to figure it out and solve things. He's vowed to keep this portion of town safe from danger, from any dangerous demons that try to threaten it, and he's not backing down. This leads him into his encounter with Hiei, who mistakes him for a lackey of our main villain, and after finding out that Kurama is no lackey but is also trying to figure out what's going on, Hiei feels a little bit foolish before whatever injury he received prior to encountering Kurama causes him to pass out. Hiei finds himself awake later at Kurama's house, his injuries being treated by Kurama. Kurama saying that he doesn't mean any serious harm or threat to him, but also is questioning Hiei about certain things. Hiei was mumbling a girl's name in his sleep. This girl happened to be Yukina. Kurama also notices that he just recently had a Jigan eye implanted into him and believes that this Yukina girl is the reason he got the eye implanted, to search for her. Hiei refuses to talk about anything and goes off to find his target. Meanwhile, Kurama then gets a phone call at his house saying that his classmate, the one that happens to really have feelings for him, Kitajima, has not come home yet, and people are wondering if Kurama knows where she is. Kurama then immediately grows more and more worried, Kitajima recently being able to see more and more of the supernatural, probably due to her always having a light sixth sense, but it being thoroughly increased just by being around Kurama and his demon energy. Kurama then catches up with Hiei. They go off together to this abandoned factory to fight their target, a demon named Yatsude, someone that looks tremendously powerful and tremendously threatening to our two young heroes before they were heroes. At first, they try to charge in, questioning Yatsude and if he knows the whereabouts of the people they're looking for. Hiei, hearing that Yatsude might have recently eaten an ice apparition, and Kurama, of course, looking for Kitajima. Yatsude talks in a way as if he's already eaten the both of them, sending both the boys to be angry as they rush him. And things do not go too well. They cannot fight this man off. He has like 6 arms. He has little hands on his head. He's very good at looking around the battlefield. He can catch them with ease. And they have to shortly retreat just for a brief moment to catch their breaths before deciding on an idea and strategy to team up. This leads to Kurama and Hiei's first team up, where they use a decoy using one of the mannequins with Hiei's cloak over it to catch Yatsude off guard before they both come in for the killing blow, not only decapitating him, but splitting his torso from his legs. Before Yatsude dies, he reveals and admits that he never ate an ice apparition and that the girl Kurama was looking for is unharmed. He also states that had he ate an ice apparition, the power increase he got would have made him able to easily defeat Kurama and Hiei, and he never would have been killed by the likes of them if so. When the battle is finally all said and done, Kurama is walking with Kitajima on his back. He's carrying her. Kitajima seems to still be half asleep, kind of feeling like she's in a dream or a daze. Kurama confirms her feelings of being in a dream or a daze before he starts erasing her memories of the things that happened over the day, including all her feelings for him. He feels that her being too close like that would be a danger to her life, and even if he didn't confirm his feelings for her back, if he did have any, her just being infatuated with him would lead her to follow him around too much, and that could threaten her life, and he didn't want that. Hiei realizes Kurama's using some kind of demonic plant pollen to erase her memories. Kurama confirms this, and the two of them go on to formally introduce each other as they walk off into the sunset of the sunrise, of the battle. It would be 1 year later that Hiei and Kurama team up again alongside the demon Goki to steal the 3 artifacts from Spirit World, leading to their first encounter with Yusuke Urameshi, and we all know how the story goes from there. So that is the Two Shots episode. It is very short. The OVA is kind of like a double feature episode. It's kind of like, like cartoons that would have 2 separate episodes that are like 15 minutes. So it's very short, and it leads to the second half of the OVA special, which is All or Nothing. But we will talk about that way down the line because that involves a lot of like endgame stuff in the manga. So yeah, that was Two Shots. Episode 26, Toguro Returns. So the episode starts off with Kuwabara looking really bummed due to the fact that Yukino returned to her home after the events of Tarukane's stronghold. Kuwabara feeling a little lonely without the girl of his dreams. Yusuke thinks Kuwabara was dumped. Botan thinks it's a romantic long-distance relationship. I don't think Yukina understands what the fuck is going on, but hey, she does like Kuwabara, at least as a friend right now, so that's sweet enough for me. Later on in the episode, not even later on, immediately after this scene, Botan drops Yusuke off with Keiko because they're supposed to go on a date. And Yusuke can't skip out on a date again like he's been doing. So he goes with Keiko to the store. The shopkeep looks at Yusuke like he's about to rob something. She's looking for cute little outfits. They're going to go to the park. They're going to have a nice day. And Yusuke can't get out of this until he does. As they walk outside, they notice a commotion. And when they go to where the crowd of people are, they see that a large chunk of wall has been completely wrecked, like some sort of random destruction, but nobody seems to know where it came from. As Yusuke backs up from the crowd, a man on a motorcycle approaches him. Who is this man on the motorcycle? Well, I actually lied. This episode of Yu Yu Hakusho starts off with the ogres in Spirit World playing a tape for Koenma. It's a tape of the Tarukane Stronghold mission, where after everyone left, it shows Toguro flexing Kuwabara's spirit sword out of his body and getting up. The elder Toguro brother also turns back to normal from being in his sword form. They get up, they start discussing their clever plan with Sakyo, who was behind everything, and who had Tarukane played. This was all a part of a test, not only to ruin Tarukane, but to test out Yusuke and Kuwabara, because they have been making a name for themselves recently due to the events of Rando and the Four Saint Beast. Toguro is and when I say Toguro, I'm talking about the younger Toguro. If I'm talking about Elder Toguro, I'll say Elder Toguro. Fuck Elder Toguro, by the way. Anywho, Toguro is very, very interested in Yusuke. He sees the potential in him, but he wants to bring out more power because while he knew he had to throw the match, he might have ended up making things worse because he couldn't hold back much longer. He might have ended up killing them in the act of trying to give them an out. So that just is part one of what makes him so threatening. So now, back to where we were. Yusuke sees this man on a motorcycle. He takes his helmet off. Boom, it's Toguro. Yusuke's like, no way, you should be dead. Toguro looks like he's just pointing or flicking his finger. Slash across Yusuke's jacket. Yusuke, of course, has to follow this man into what looks to be like some kind of building under construction. Yusuke's trying to talk big. Of course, that's not helping because his legs are shaking. Toguro then outright states when they fought last, he was only using about 20% of his power against Yusuke and Kuwabara. Now, he powers up to about 60%, then proceeds to level the entire construction building around them, making sure to break any debris that would have fallen on Yusuke, who was too paralyzed to move. When the dust settles, Yusuke is standing in a pile of rubble, Toguro in front of him before quickly moving behind him. This is where we get the announcement, the invitation. Toguro tells Yusuke about the Dark Tournament martial arts competition, and that he and Kuwabara will be special guests. And if they refuse, he will kill them on the spot. And they better hurry up and get a 5th member, because of course, Hiei and Kurama will be a part of the team as well. Toguro then leaves like he did nothing. Like he did absolutely fucking nothing. Yusuke falls to his knees, too paralyzed to even describe what just happened, too scared to fight back. He feels utterly helpless and weak. Kuwabara, meanwhile, is watching from a building not too far off from where Toguro left that other building in a pile of rubble, completely paralyzed with fear, just like Yusuke was, because they beat that man. That man died, or so they thought. He and Kurama were also nearby, Toguro remarking that of course they were invited and that they need their 5th member. So, this leads to our short little training montage. Yusuke goes back to Genkai's place to further his training, saying that he only has about 2 months to get his power on par with Togoro's, if not stronger. Genkai says, okay, you can't run away this time. We're going to do everything seriously. And Yusuke seems ready. Meanwhile, we see Hiei whipping Kuwabara into shape and not seeming too impressed by Kuwabara, but Kuwabara still getting back to his feet to continue trying to fight and get stronger. We cut back to Yusuke, who is climbing a mountainside with Genkai. Genkai casually strolling up. Yusuke struggling to climb, also with large ball and chain strapped to his ankles. Genkai then running down and rapidly punching him in his stomach with a bunch of blows, almost having him fall off, telling him, hey, does it hurt, you little slacker? Cut back to Kurama, telling Kuwabara that Hiei's code of honor and Kuwabara's weakness forced Hiei to hold back. Hiei didn't go as hard as he could have with training on Kuwabara. Kurama does not have such a code, and though he is a nice guy, when it comes to battle, he's cutthroat, and he won't be nice when toughening up Kuwabara. Kuwabara says, go for it, let's get it done. And the last thing we see of Kuwabara before that training montage ends is him looking terrified as Kurama is about to pounce on him. Yusuke is still trying to climb up and is still pushing hard for his training, and just like that, 2 months goes by. We end up at someplace in the forest where all these apparitions and demons are meeting up to get on the boat to the Dark Tournament. We also see that they notice there's a human nearby, that human being Kuwabara, who's waiting to get on the boat with Kurama and Hiei. Yusuke and their 5th member is still nowhere to be found, as the captain of the boat announces that everybody's about to climb on board ship. Hiei also remarks if Kuwabara's gotten any stronger, and Kuwabara says of course he has. Kurama's been helping him get into shape. We then get a thought from Kuwabara saying, I'm going to get strong, I'm going to win this tournament, and then Yukina and I can be together forever. As selfish and stupid as that sounds, and as Kuwabara accurate as that sounds, I have to inform you that in the Japanese, he sounds a bit more sincere. He wants to make it so that Yukina doesn't have to be bothered by any other apparitions or people, so she can live freely as she pleases, which means he can be around her more as well, but it would help her out too. So it does sound a lot more sweet in the Japanese than it does the dub. I still think the dub is fine with the line because it still kind of gets a point across, but it sounds a little more vain in the dub, I will point out. So as the captain's telling everyone to get on the boat, Kuwabara remarks that, hey, we still got 2 more people that aren't here yet. And the captain says, hey, if they don't show up, they'll be marked as trying to run away and assassins will come and kill them later. That is when Yusuke appears from the brush with a mysterious masked fighter. Who could this masked fighter be? I don't know who the masked fighter could possibly be. And I will keep calling them the masked fighter until the moment the anime officially reveals who they are. No, I will not elaborate. So as Yusuke pops up, Hiei approaches, looking at him, before drawing his sword and rapidly swinging it at Yusuke, who is able to rapidly dodge all these slashes. Kurama just casually watching, all the other demons around them looking kind of stunned of why they're attacking their own teammates, and Kuwabara, struggling to keep up just watching their movements. Yusuke then catches the tip of Hiei's blade on his fingertip, and he's like, damn, Hiei, is that how you greet people? And, Hiei's like, okay, look like you beefed up a little bit. Well, it'll only be you and me required to win this tournament. Spoiler alert, that is complete fucking cap. But go off, Hiei. You do have a very good record in the Dark Tournament, I can't lie. Kuwabara laments that he could barely see them moving, but Kurama tries to cheer him up, saying the fact that you could even see them moving shows that you've gotten a lot stronger than you used to be, which is very true. So the team gets on the boat after also looking and trying to size up this very short mass fighter that will be their 5th team member. Yusuke tries to reassure the homies that it's all good. This person we can trust. They're pretty fucking powerful. But everybody's not sure. Kuwabara even pointing out that this mass fighter guy is shorter than Hiei. Who else is shorter than Hiei in the series? I just wonder who the mass fighter could possibly be. Episode 27, the Dark Tournament begins. So before we get into the first official match of the Dark Tournament, we got a little prelim situation. As the team is sailing on the boat on their way to Hanging Neck Isle, the location where we will be for a very long time. This is the longest arc in the story in both the anime and manga format, so let's get comfortable. But little exhibition match before we get there. Yusuke is asleep, everyone noting that the training he went through must have been pretty hard, and that he's trying to recover his physical and spiritual strength. While that's happening, Kuwabara remarks that there's no fun, there's no entertainment, it's kind of boring on the boat. Before the captain comes out and says we're about to have a little entertainment, Kuwabara thinks it's going to be some dinner and dancing. It is in fact not dinner and dancing. It is the preliminary round of the Dark Tournament. Yes, technically the Dark Tournament has kind of already began, at least for these teams on the boat. There's 15 certified official teams already waiting on Hanging Neck Island, going through opening ceremony stuff, learning about the rules and the prizes they can receive. Oh no, but not Team 16. See, Team 16 is a guest team, as we already heard that Yusuke, Kuwabara, Hiei, Kurama, and the Masked Fighter are guests at the Dark Tournament. But also, these other teams could be possible guest teams, and only one of them can take that slot, which means they're gonna have a little battle royale on the boat to decide which of those teams has the right to claim that spot officially. Each team is supposed to take their strongest member to get them onto the arena floor and have a battle royale match with all the other team's strongest members. Last man standing for their team gets their team that ticket in. It looks pretty threatening, and when Kuwabara seems like, oh, well, I mean, Yusuke's technically team leader, he tries to wake him up, but he can't. Still in a deep sleep, Kurama remarking, hey, let him sleep, let him rest, he probably needs it, and the Masked Fighter quietly stepping forward to represent Team Urameshi. Everyone is a bit skeptical about this Masked Fighter, considering that none of them seem to know who this person is. Gee, I wonder who they could be, though. And as they climb into the arena, all the demons around decide that, hey, before we really get down to it, let's make sure we take that human out first. All deciding to jump the Masked Fighter before they really get into the Battle Royale. When the captain officially starts the match, they all rush this Masked Fighter. Kuwabara looking shocked, like, oh my god, they're really gonna jump this guy and pulverize him. But Kurama telling him, be calm, let's see what happens. And that's when the Masked Fighter busts out the shotgun. One of Yusuke's tricky little moves that he learned recently. How recently? Well, back when he first did his training with Genkai and came back during the first Force Saint Beast arc, that is when we saw the move. We also saw him use it a couple of times in Tarukane's Stronghold and in the Yu Yu Hakusho movie, The Golden Seal. So, I wonder who this Masked Fighter could be. Anywho, the shotgun immediately one-shots everyone in the arena, knocking them either onto the floor of the ship below or into the waters around the boat. Instantly, all in a second, declaring Team Urameshi the official guest team. Now, Hiei suggested earlier that if things go south, they just kill everyone else on the boat, and when they get to Hanging Neck Island, no one will question that they're the winning team. It seems that all the other demons think that's a pretty swell idea too, as they immediately try to attack the remaining members of Team Urameshi who hadn't fought in the preliminary round. That's when an all-out ship brawl starts, and we get to see the team flex their abilities, since we haven't seen them fight since, before the training. The Masked Fighter is easily taking out people with her bare feet, kicking and jumping around, and I just, who is this person? Hiei quickly and easily is slicing and dicing through the competition so fast they can't even see him pull his sword. Kuwabara even is throwing down. They think he's an easy mark to take out. One of them trying to grab him from behind, him slamming him over the shoulder with a throw. One trying to descend upon him from above, getting impaled on Kuwabara's spirit sword. Kuwabara remarking, like, what kind of weakling do they take him for? And my favorite flex on the ship had to be from Kurama, as when he was surrounded by a group of demons, he pulls out the rose whip, spinning it around, and I can't remember the exact Japanese translation of the move, but we love the dub. We love dumb names, good or bad. I think this name is fine. We call it Rose Whip Thorn Wheel, where the whip spins around, all these petals are fluttering everywhere, and before you know it, all the demons around him have been cut and sliced to ribbons with extremely deadly precision. It looks like things are going to be settled in. Kuwabara slicing through another demon with his spirit sword, and he sees one of them try to sneak up on Yusuke. He's worried and thinks he won't make it to him in time, but even in Yusuke's sleep, he's still too powerful for these guys. Pummeling this dude with a barrage of punches as Yusuke is yelling and talking in his sleep, probably arguing with Genkai about her training methods over that 2 months while he was gone. He then promptly lays back down and goes back to sleep. Kuwabara thinks it's pretty goofy and crazy that he's even talking in his sleep, and then again questions the Masked Fighter, wondering if maybe the Masked Fighter's Genkai. I mean, he did do the shotgun. He came with Yusuke, presumably from Yusuke's compound, or Genkai's compound. Genkai personally probably picked this person to go with Yusuke. What better person to go with Yusuke than his master, Genkai? But Kuwabara's like, nah, she wouldn't go unless, something was in it for her. She wouldn't do something out of the goodness of her own heart like that. And Kuwabara's kind of right. Earlier in series, that's how Genkai is. But he's wrong about certain things. But I won't spoil those just yet. We'll keep the mystery of the Masked Fighter a mystery. Even Koema, who is talking to George in Otherworld, doesn't seem to know who the Masked Fighter is. No one seems to have told him, even though he is technically the team owner of Team Urameshi. So let's also cut to Botan, Keiko, and Shizuru. But before we do that, Kuwabara wonders what happened to all the people they were fighting as they get into their side conversation. And Hiei and Kurama remark, everyone's dead. They killed them. The captain is shocked and kind of shaking. The whole point of this preliminary round was to try to gather information about Team Urameshi's powers, but he feels like they barely even showed off a fraction of what they were actually capable of. So it looks like we'll have to wait for the actual tournament to see what these guys are going to pull off. So, cutting to Botan, Keiko, and Shizuru back in the world of the living. Yusuke's mom Atsuko's passed out drinking, And Keiko and Shizuru are grilling Botan, asking about where Yusuke and Kuwabara are, since they have not been home in like days. And it looks like something dangerous is going on again. This, of course, pissing off Shizuru because where the fuck is her baby brother? And this, of course, pissing off Keiko because Yusuke has gone and ran off somewhere again, and they know Botan knows what's going on. Botan finally cracks under the pressure and reveals to them the truth about everything that's been going on over the course of Season 1, the Spirit Detective Saga. She says, please don't faint if I tell you. They say, okay, sure. She tells them, what does Keiko do? She faints. So needless to say, these girls, these lovely ladies, will be on their way to Hanging Neck Island to spectate the Dark Tournament. Cutting back to Team Urameshi, they make it to Hanging Neck Island and reach their hotel. They're greeted formally. You know, their bags are being taken to their room. It seems all nice. There's all these fancy rich people dressed in suits and gowns, watching them as they walk by and are brought to their rooms. And everyone is talking mad shit. They're like, oh, that's the guest team. And da-da-da-da-da. And then this dude's like, do be kind, dear. They're going to die tomorrow. Like, the guest team in the Dark Tournament is famous for being the team that gets killed immediately. They are there for the blood sport of it. These people are there not only to make money, but the spectacle and the violence and depravity. They live for it. They get off to it. That is the darkness of humans that we will learn about much, much later, but we get some good glimpses into it even now in the Dark Tournament arc. Hell, we got a really strong glimpse of it in Tarukane's Stronghold with Tarukane, like during the Yukina rescue. So they get to their rooms, they're served coffee. Kuwabara doesn't trust it, thinking they might be poisoned, but he and Kurama remarked that they wouldn't bring them all the way here to the island just to poison them. They want to see them lose in combat, which is 100% true. They want to watch these guys die. Kuwabara still doesn't trust it, pulling out a can. That leaves one cup on the table, but Kurama questions why there's one cup on the table. Yes, Kuwabara did not take his coffee, but Yusuke's still asleep. So who took the cup? That's when they realize a boy standing on like some kind of shelf or ottoman behind them, sipping that cup of coffee. When did he get in? How did he get past them like that? Kuwabara remarks that he must have already been in the room before they even got here. But the boy remarks, no. I came in when you guys opened the door, but I guess I should have knocked and, introduced myself first. He then introduces himself as Rinku, saying that the guest team's so lucky that they don't have to go to the opening ceremonies or listen to any of the boring speeches. You just get to go and fight. But then he remarks that I guess that makes sense since there's no point in them learning all of that when they're going to be the first ones to die. Rinku then reveals that he will be a part of the team fighting them in the very first match of the first round tomorrow morning, the Rikuyakai team. As he's talking his shit, Kuwabara is kind of upset and annoyed by him talking about death like it's some kind of toy, like it's some kind of joke, like it doesn't even really matter. The things Kuwabara has gone through over the course of Season 1, and of course Kuwabara, just being a born and bred human being, really questions the sanity of this child. That is when it's revealed that there's another person in the room, a guy by the name of Zero, who is currently the team's acting captain. More on that later. But they're again shocked that another person is in the room, as Zero tells Rinku, come on, let's go, we're leaving. He remarks that, let's just say that coffee cup on the table is going to be a lot like you guys tomorrow. The coffee cup then is split clean in half. Hiei seemingly interested in this because it looks like some kind of heat was used in the technique to cut the cup in half. Why does this interest Hiei so much? We're just gonna have to wait and find out. Zero questions Yusuke, who was sleeping on the couch, wondering if Yusuke was just too stupid to notice the danger, or did he just sense that they weren't a big enough threat for him to even wake up? Regardless, the morning comes, the Dark Tournament arrives. We get our iconic battlefield, our tournament arena, the big stadium full of demons, and of course, who could forget everyone's favorite referee, commentator, just general superstar, Koto. Yes, everyone. Everyone's favorite character in Yu Yu Hakusho is here, Koto. But as she's getting the party started, announcing Team Rakuyakai and Team Urameshi to the stage, the episode ends as the first round is about to begin. And that ends the preliminary section of the Dark Tournament. And next time we will get into the first match of the Dark Tournament. But now, let's get into the manga differences of the episodes in the OVA I was talking about just before. When it comes to the Two Shots OVA, there's not too many differences. Very, very slight things. The most notable things I'll bring up is that in the manga, these guys were planning way more than just to have a little fun with girls. It makes it seem like the plan was, oh, we're gonna get some girls we know, we're gonna bring them to this scary place, oh, they're gonna be freaked out and they're gonna, hold on to us and clutch to us, and that's when we get to make our moves and score tonight, typical high school college kid stuff. But it seems like it would end consensually. In the manga chapter, it seems like they were gonna bring them here to sexually assault them. So whoa, what the fuck? And good riddance to them as well if they got killed. It seems like they definitely did that off-screen jump scare, and then talking about the different disappearances clearly leads to Yatsude probably killing them off-screen. Another thing is, I don't believe Yatsude is named in the manga at all. I don't think they bring up his name. I think that is only in the OVA. I would probably have to double triple check, but I remember reading the chapter and I put this note down that they don't name Yatsude, so I'm gonna go with what Past Me said, and they don't name Yatsude in the manga. Another thing to note is the fight is much quicker in the manga. I mean, of course it's a manga chapter, but there's not much of a struggle. Like the whole thing about Hiei being injured still happened, the whole thing about Kimijima being more spiritually aware due to being around Kurama all the time still happen. All that stuff still happens, and it's pretty straightforward. The same thing that happened in the manga happens in the anime special. But when you get to the fight, there's no scene where he and Kurama have to retreat, take a little breather, get their bearings together before they get Yatsude put in their little decoy trap. It's just during that fight, that encounter, that they set up a decoy trap, just in the moment. The fight is much quicker, it ends much quicker like that. It pretty much ends the same way though, Yatsude revealing he ain't no ice demon, he didn't eat the girl, and then he dies the same way pretty much. So those are pretty much the only differences. There's probably some other small things, but if we're just talking major differences, that's it. The thing I want to get into, I think this is kind of like my favorite manga anime difference, is the episode 26, the Toguro return situation. There's a lot of differences, or like some big ones in my opinion. One of the biggest ones being Toguro approaching Yusuke again after, he reveals that he's been alive this whole time. So in the anime, we get, Yusuke and Keiko out on this little date. They're walking around, they see the destruction. Yusuke walks away, and then he sees Toguro on the motorcycle. Also, side note, another sub and dub difference. In the sub, Keiko mentions after the shopping, they're gonna go to Disneyland. So they were on their way to Disneyland, I guess. In the anime, I just thought that was funny to point out. I believe in the dub, they just say like amusement park or park. Maybe they didn't want Disney on their asses in the dub, so they were just like, just say amusement park. But we don't even get that date in the manga. And it's kind of weird because it feels less like stretched out. It's way more like, boom, Togoro's there. And maybe that could be seen as a negative, but I kind of actually like the way this story beat is executed in the manga more than the anime. Not that the anime is bad. It does a great job instilling the terror of Toguro into you, especially after he breaks down that building. But it's so sudden and it's so quick in the manga. I think that makes it a little scarier, especially if you're reading it, like page by page and looking at these panels. Because we get the scene of Kuwabara looking down, them talking about Yukina leaving. Yusuke's at school, and you know who's waiting for him at the front of the fucking school? Toguro. Just in front of all these kids. Yusuke just sees him in front of the school. He brings him to the abandoned building. They talk about back and forth about Yusuke being scared. Toguro talks about only using 20% of his power and then going 60%. And then instead of leveling the building, what Toguro actually does is he gets buff, gets to 60%, looks huge and monstrous in the manga, by the way. He looked big in the anime. He looks bigger and grosser in the manga, I'll say. And he says, whew, I can level this building in 3 minutes at this power. You want to see me do it? Instead of doing it, he threatens Yusuke with the tournament and then threatens his life. But then he just leaves. He just fucking leaves. He grabs his jacket, no shirt under, by the way. He's just rocking the coat with no shirt underneath forever now. As soon as he ripped that shirt in the Yukina rescue arc, he never wore a shirt again. But he took his jacket off, flexed to 60%, said, yo, I could break this building in 3 minutes if I wanted to. Do you want to see me do it? Scares the fuck out of Yusuke, threatens him with the tournament, picks his jacket up, goes back to normal size, and leaves. Just leaves. And I think it's so, like, much more terrifying because it leaves so much more to the imagination of, like, what could this man possibly do? We've only seen him fight at about 20%. He went to 60 and did nothing, and it still paralyzed Yusuke with fear. Yusuke knew, just by looking at that man, just by feeling his presence when he powered up to that much, that he had no chance in hell of beating him. Hell, they barely beat him at 20%, and they technically did not even beat him. So I love that imposing, like, Toguro can just show up and do and say whatever the fuck he wants and no one is going to check him. It is so scary, and it shows early in why Toguro is such a beloved villain. He just kind of has that cool factor about him, and it doesn't start really flexing out until like the Dark Tournament stuff, because like I said, when he's introduced in the Yukina Rescue, from what we've been seeing from all the arcs previously with, you know, the three monsters, Rando, Four Saint Beasts, you know, besides Hiei and Kurama, who joined as main cast members, and Hiei wasn't even originally planned to be a main character, it just seemed like, oh, okay, he's the bad guy of this arc. He's gonna be the guy they gotta take down next. Okay, oh, that's an interesting power these brothers have. Okay, cool. And we come to find out immediately after, no, that's not true. And I know I criticized Togashi for writing it like there was kind of no buffer time between Toguro being fake dead and coming back, but I think it still flows really well, especially so in the manga, just by how sudden it happens. It's just like, oh, he's alive. Oh, he showed up at Yusuke's school. Oh, he just threatened this middle school boy. Go to this tournament and meet me in the finals, or I'll just kill you right here. You and Kuwabara. Kuwabara watching like, what the fuck, I do? And it's just like, whoa, it happens all so fast, you kind of don't have time to process it, which maybe that was the idea Togashi was going for, especially when thinking of Yusuke. Yusuke, you know, was just going about his day like they already solved this problem, like they do with every other case. Oh, that problem solved, cool, on to the next one. You're not expecting these people to come back, especially like 2 days later. So yeah, it's definitely scary, and rereading the manga I can see how that works. I think in the anime the buffer still kind of works just because of the way they plotted out the episode with the date and then Toguro shows up on the motorcycle. So like I said, plus if Golden Seal is like a filler episode, that's around where I would place it. Exactly, filler, it wouldn't be in the manga anyway. So those are the major differences of that. Oh, they do the training. The Kurama talk seems a lot more scary in the manga, of Kurama saying, I ain't gonna hold back, bitch. But pretty much the whole scene of them waiting for Yusuke and this masked rider to show up is kind of the same. Hiei attacking Yusuke and them having their little back and forth is the same. Another difference is Kurama doesn't seem to mention anything about the training when Kuwabara's like, yeah, Kurama toughened me up, and in the manga he still seems a little nervous about Kuwabara. Maybe he feels like he needed more time, but he still is gonna be that good guy Kurama and back Kuwabara up and give him the pep talk he needs to push forward throughout the tournament, especially during the first round when we see him go up against Rinku. Kurama's like, nah, he's got this. He knows how to get around. He'll figure it out. We'll see when we talk about it next episode. But those are pretty much the differences for that. The boat to Hanging Neck Island, the preliminaries are pretty much the same. One difference, this is kind of a major difference, because in the anime, during his fight with Rinku, the first time we see double spirit sword is during that battle. And that's kind of like the only time we see double spirit sword, even though there's a lot of artwork that looks really iconic and cool with Kuwabara using two spirit swords. In the anime, that's like the only time he does that. In the manga, there's a time before the match where he does that. And it's when they're on the boat during the prelims. After Masked Fighter wins the prelims and all the demons on the boat start attacking them, Kuwabara busts out two spirit swords, which is kind of impressive. I don't think you have time to realize how impressive it is in the anime match, just because everything's happening so quick in the middle of the match, and it's mainly made to show the difference between Rinku and Kuwabara's like skill with their abilities, because Rinku immediately kind of shuts that down. But it's impressive when you think about it, because think about Kuwabara when he first got the spirit sword. He needed the broken handle of that wooden sword Musashi had to channel his spirit energy and use it as a conduit to make an energy manipulated weapon. Then in the Forsaken Beast arc, he didn't even need the base of the sword anymore. He could even extend it like a spear or a javelin, but it still kind of made him tired to do that. We could see him getting worn out during the first round battle with Byakuo. And then into Rukune's Stronghold / Yukina Rescue arc, we can see that Kuwabara is more confident with his spirit sword. He doesn't have, like, you know, the best swordsmanship skills, of course, but he seems a little more attuned with it, a little more accustomed to it. He can slice and dice pretty quick. Low-level demons don't even see him, like, swinging his sword and all the moves he's making at once. He was able to slice through a lot of guys pretty quick as they were storming to Rukune's mansion. And he even instinctually holds back energy, like when he didn't want to hurt Botan in the anime version of the fight with Goku Mankin. So we can see that Kuwabara's slowly been getting better and better with the weapon. But the fact that now he can make two of them at the same time and not even seem exhausted or woozy, that is pretty impressive. That's a pretty impressive feat for Kuwabara's character, because he's never been able to do something like that. We can see he's fully getting attuned with his energy, and that's going to go a lot more into his character. But that's the another big difference. The first time he uses double spirit sword in the manga is during the prelim fight, where in the anime he doesn't do it until his fight with Rinku. So you get a little more of it in the manga, just a tad bit more, but like I said, he does not use that move much. It's kind of like a trend we see in Yu Yu Hakusho. There's certain abilities and moves that the crew never really uses more than once. Most of them kind of use the same, like, two techniques. Like, you're going to see Yusuke use Spirit Gun and Shotgun a lot. You're going to see Kuwabara use the Spirit Sword and extend the Spirit Sword a lot. You're going to see Hiei slice people up, and later when he gets his move, you know what I'm talking about. Kurama Rose Whip some kind of plant. Some kind of new plant that does something cool as fuck. It's awesome, but a lot of these techniques are one time. I mean, I think it kind of makes a lot of moments in the series more iconic and special, because you can point out the skill and people will know what fight you're talking about, because that's the only time it's happened. But at the same time, it's like, I wish they kind of use more of it, you know. It does make for some iconic moments, though. But that is pretty much it for the anime manga differences. Let's get to just my overall thoughts, which we've already been talking about, and then we'll wrap up. Overall, the preliminary portion, like, you know, like the calm before the storm as we hit the dark tournament, these episodes, these chapters, they're good. They're solid. They get you set up. They get you anticipating stuff. We immediately have already set up a main villain, being Toguro. You know, the lackey, the hired hand of the last arc that was strong, but seemed to be no more than some kind of hired hand that was looking for a challenge from Yusuke and Kuwabara. You know, he's now back, and now he's showing, yeah, he works under this dude Sakio, but it seems more like he works with Sakio. He has his own goals and motivations and plans in mind, and now we're seeing the blossoming of a much more complex and deeper character. So they set that up great. They set up motivation for Yusuke great, because Yusuke feels so threatened by this man. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Yusuke caved when Toguro challenged him. Toguro flexed. Toguro showed his strength. He showed his chest. And Yusuke, being the type, no matter the odds, to always be ready to talk his shit and throw down, couldn't do anything against this man. He just stood there and watched in terror as this man forced him to enter this tournament. And so we're seeing like Yusuke strive for a goal of, oh my god, I have to beat this guy. Like, he has no choice, but he also, there's a sense of him like, that was embarrassing. I need this victory. I need to get him back for this. Not only do I need this to survive and for all of us to survive, but I have to get this win. So now we have that set up, which is something that's going to go even deeper. He went back to training with Genkai as well. We're going to see throughout the Dark Tournament how Genkai is so deeply interwoven into this plot, and it's just set up so good. There's so many reasons why people love the Dark Tournament and why the Dark Tournament is considered one of the best tournament arcs in Shonen, one of the best arcs in Shonen, period. There's a lot of reasons to express why people love this arc so much. And though I always talk about how it's not my favorite arc in the series, my favorite arc in the series is Chapter Black, there is no denying the beauty and like the spectacle that is the Dark Tournament. There's going to be so many good fights. There's going to be so many good like character development moments, lore explanations, just past interwoven with each other deeper than you ever would have thought. Things that characters say that are going to be important later. Like when Kuwabara was like, hey, maybe the Mash Fighter's Genkai. Nah, she wouldn't come and help unless she had a reason to do so. Because we know Genkai. Genkai likes to be up in the mountains at her house by herself, unbothered. She just needed a successor. She didn't even care if her successor was Rando, some fucking evil demon out to steal techniques. She just wanted to pass down her techniques. And it's just like, oh, okay. Like, so that's going to come into question. Who the Masked Fighter is, I guess it's kind of a mystery. But also we're going to see the boys. This is where my ideas and thoughts around what Yu Yu Hakusho means, specifically to me, start to really come in. The Spirit Detective Saga sets you up to get to know the characters. We now know who Yusuke is. We now know who Kuwabara is. We know who Hiei is. We know who Kurama is. We know the boys. We know who the squad is. We're well acquainted with them at this point. So the Dark Tournament is going to set up like sowing these seeds into what they want to be, where we're moving from here. We're going to see a lot of development and everyone kind of facing these ideals or these paths going on with their characters. Like I said, Yusuke has that classic shonen protagonist of like, oh, you hurt my friends, gonna get even stronger now, I'm gonna power up. But that being like extremely interwoven with who he is as a character and his issues with expressing emotions and feelings and, you know, what he really wants and desires. We're gonna have Kuwabara really relying on his own abilities more and seeing like Kuwabara shines best when he actually relies on his powers rather than just being some idiot swinging a sword around trying to act tough. We're gonna see Kurama, who is going to be dealing with kind of an identity crisis in a way. We're gonna see Hiei, who's dealing with his own feelings of powerlessness. He doesn't openly talk about it a lot, but he is scared of Toguro as well, and he wants the power to defeat him, no matter where that takes him and where that's going to lead him. So we're gonna see him struggling with just this one technique, but a technique so drastically powerful, it will very well help Team Urameshi gain an edge throughout the tournament. We're going to see a lot of that. Even the female characters. I know the female characters get very much sidelined in Yu Yu Hakusho. They're the cheerleaders. They're the side girls. But I personally think, despite that, and I'm not saying it's not flawed, I think they could have been done better. Always. I still think they play their roles really well. Keiko showing off who she is really well done. Shizuru showing off who she is really well done. Atsuko is Atsuko. Oh my god, I can't believe it. I forgot the most striking difference of the Dark Tournament in the anime and the manga. Oh my goodness. Maybe it's because it's so like well known amongst the community, I never thought about like bringing it up. because it's not like a small time thing. But okay, big difference. First of all, let's just talk about this little one. In the manga, Keiko does not faint when she learns the information about Yusuke and the boys and what they've been doing. She's headstrong enough to be like, okay, Botan, you're gonna take us to Hanging Neck Island, and I'm gonna give Yusuke a piece of my fucking mind. So tough girl, Yusuke's girl, who else could she be? Botan takes them, but she takes Keiko, Shizuru, and Atsuko. Yusuke's mom also attends the Dark Tournament as a guest in the crowd with the rest of them in the manga. In the anime, Atsuko is not present at the Dark Tournament. And I don't know why this was decided. I don't know if this was decided, early on, like, oh, we're just not gonna have her be there. Who cares, Maybe it's because George is there and George is a filler character, so they took one character out who was kind of gonna be filler, that being Atsuko, and then put someone else in, and we'll just have George. There we go. Or if, I don't know if it was last minute, because in the opening of Yu Yu Hakusho, the first animated opening, the one that lasts all the way up until the end of the Dark Tournament before they change animation scenes to like chapter black stuff, it shows at the end that like the peak of the opening, the climax, shows Yusuke standing in the arena and the boys come down with him and Danger's there, and then it goes to like a shot of the audience in the crowd, and in the crowd you see a group of women. You see Botan, you see Keiko, you see Shizuru, but some people always ask who this fourth lady is, and a lot of the time some people say, no, that's Shizuru. No, Shizuru's placed over here. You can clearly tell it's Shizuru. I don't think people think about it a lot just because Atsuko's such a background character, but that's Atsuko in the opening. That is Yusuke's mother. You can tell she has the sweater on, the same sweater she always wears, the same dark hair color, everything. It's Atsuko. She looks a little different just because the opening is a little more poppy stylized. It's a little more flashy, but that is her because she canonically was supposed to be in attendance at the tournament, but in the anime she is not. I don't know the reason, but that there's that. I can't believe I forgot that, but I think it is because most people in the fandom already know about that, or that question is asked so many times I wasn't even thinking about that. I like to try to bring up things for anime and manga differences that are little things that are like, oh, okay, that's interesting, or like big things that people might have never even thought of that kind of like change scenes contextually, like the Toguro scene in Toguro Returns, like how different that is in the anime from the manga, like how sudden it is in the anime, like how it's like boom, or in the manga how it's like boom boom boom, but in the anime there's like this build up. They're like, oh my god, he's alive, oh my god, he appeared on Yusuke, oh my god, Yusuke's shaking, oh my god, he really destroyed that build. Kind of like those hits and those build-ups. Same impact at the end of the day, but different methods to attain that impact. So I like to bring those up, so I didn't even think about the Atsuko thing. So sorry about that. Oh my god, I can't believe I forgot that. But yeah, so we're sowing the seeds for these characters. We're going to get a lot of character development, and then when we get to Chapter Black, Part 3 of the story, we're going to see a lot of these kind of like culminate into this like explosion for a lot of different people before we get to, Part 4, with everything being kind of concluded and wrapped up. And also another reason why the manga might have been going fast is I believe it's around this point in the manga, or a little later, like during the first round against your Team Urameshi versus Team Rikuyakai. It's during around this point that Togashi starts really having those serious health issues, and that's when you see like some chapters have a dip in art quality. But it kind of goes with like a lot of minimalist styles he likes to do in certain chapters to have certain impact with characters. So sometimes it's hard to notice, but sometimes it definitely is noticeable. You can see a lot of that with Hunter x Hunter as well. So there's that. That might have been why it's going a little faster. Maybe that's why they wanted to flesh it out, because the anime team took liberties with certain stuff to flesh it out. We know... Well, we'll get to the Three Kings stuff when we get to the Three Kings stuff. That is a very polarizing portion of the series. But yeah, I feel like the Spirit Detective Saga introduces you to the cast. The Dark Tournament develops it. The Chapter Black brings it to like this crescendo. And then Three Kings to the end of the series concludes it. So, you know, you have like that part 1, that part 2, that part 3, and then that part 4 grounds it out. So I think that's a beautiful thing. Whether or not Togashi planned it this way, I do not know. The truth is probably somewhere in between. It's probably like he planned a lot of this, but then, you know, of course he didn't have time to maybe plan out more than he wanted. Maybe the manga could have gone on and on and on for like hundreds of more chapters. But, you know, due to his health issues, it ended pretty early. There's even reports that he wanted to end it as early as the end of Chapter Black. There was going to be no Three Kings arc. But, you know, he's pushed to continue. They wanted more. And that's the reason why we have the Three Kings situation. Like I said, we'll talk about it later. Right now, we're getting into, like, you know, what is considered the golden age of Yu Yu Hakusho. A lot of people love this arc. There's a lot of reasons to love this arc. Again, not my favorite, but I get it. It's very, very good. We're going to have a lot of fun talking about this stuff. So that's pretty much going to cover my thoughts. I think this, to sum it up, this is the perfect, like, finale to, like, the Spirit Detective saga in a way. Like I said, it's a lot of character setup, and this just sets up the greatness that is the Dark Tournament so well. Like, so well. One of my favorite things that Toguro says in the anime, you know, when we see Yusuke try to act tough but his legs are shaking, Toguro says, good. It's good that you're afraid of me. You know the threat. You know you can't win. That shows that you can be stronger. It's one of your strengths to know when you're at a disadvantage, to understand your weakness. And I was like, that's a really cool, it's such a simple line. Like, he doesn't say all that. He says it much more, like, simplistically, you know. But it's when you think about it, it's such a deep line. It's just like, damn, one of Yusuke's greatest strengths is knowing when he's fucking beat. That fear of like, oh my god, I'm defenseless. But Togoro's into it. Toguro wants to nurture that for his own reasons that, as of this point in the story, we do not know yet. And it does lead to a lot of people thinking Toguro isn't a villain. In my personal opinion, Toguro is a villain, and I'll talk about why I believe so. A lot of people are like, no, he's just kind of like this anti-broken hero guy. Nah, he did a lot of bad stuff. So I'm not going to let that slide. Sorry. But we'll talk about that when we talk about that. So next time, we will be doing a whole discussion of the first round of the Dark Tournament. So Team Urameshi versus Team Rikuyakai. We're going to have 4 exciting battles for you. Some are going to be quicker than others. The longest one, of course, is going to be the final battle. But it's all going to start off with episode 28, Kuwabara versus Rinku. And we'll go from there. So I'll probably do a community post of what episodes to watch and what chapters to read, so you can be up to date on things. But that is going to cover this arc, guys. That is going to cover this file on closing up shop. We still have a lot to talk about when it comes to the case that is the Dark Tournament. So please stick around. Enjoy yourselves. Discuss in the comments. I know I still have like a steady core audience of people that does follow. I thank you guys for that. You're the reason I keep wanting to make videos. I want to keep spreading things around. So yeah, you know, leave a comment, leave a like, let me know if you have any questions, suggestions, comments, concerns, whatnot. Spread the word, share it to people who you think would like it, whether they are longtime fans of Yu Yu Hakusho, only remember watching it back in the day and like to get back into it, or just are totally oblivious. But as always, remind them to watch or read the source material. This channel and these videos are not a way to replace the source material. It is to complement and supplement it. But yes, I'm closing up shop tonight, guys. Thank you so much for coming through. Thank you for watching the video. And as always, thanks for all the love and support. And I will catch you guys later for the next case in the Ramen Shop Detective Agency.